We are live. Good evening, everyone. This week we've got the Blue-Emu Max Pain Relief 500 from Martinsville Speedway. Before we get started here, I'm just going to share the link in a couple of places, get a few more people in here before we start talking about the race, which might not even happen tonight because of rain. So yay, we had a week off, we get NASCAR back, and now we have to wait for rain. Sorry about that. I'll just share this in a couple places and we will get started. How's everyone doing? So get your questions ready, fire them off. I'm going to go through them throughout the show. I'm going to talk about some strategy. I'm going to talk about some core plays that I'm looking at. I'm going to be building 20 max, so when I'm talking about my exposures, or if you're looking on the sheet and you're looking at the rankings or anything like that, they're going to be my exposures. Let's cross that out there. Almost done sharing this, and then we'll get started here. What sites are you guys playing on tonight? I'm going to talk about some prize picks too. If anyone's playing some prize picks, I will get that up as well. Share this in my RotoPros chat so you can get my content in 3 places. I'm just sharing it in all those places at the moment. You can head over to dfsr.com. I have content over there. You can get my cheat sheet there, as well as communicate in chat. I'm there to answer questions and help you guys out. Over at rotopros.com. Me and Dane handle that over there. We've also got Kenny over on RotoPros, who is a whiz when it comes to multi-entering with any sport. So definitely hit him up for any kind of strategy, stuff like that. Or you can head over to my Patreon, patreon.com/Jagerbombs for $5 a month American. You get access to one sport, or $10 for all sports. And I think there's like 9 live sports for sheets right now. Some of those sports have multiple sheets, like for NASCAR, for instance, I do trucks, Xfinity, as well as Cup. So pretty decent value there. That's $7 Canadian, $13.50 for all sports. Geez, I share this in a lot of spots. See how many people we get in here tonight. Throw me your pick to win here tonight, everyone, too. This is a good race here at Martinsville, a good one to watch. It's going to have obviously a green track. We had the Xfinity race here last night. It didn't complete. It was about 34 laps short of being an official race at the end of stage 2. So they're going to be finishing that up, I think, tomorrow. We got one fairly good lineup there. Everyone's doing decent except for AJ Allmendinger. Looks like he's going to get a lap back, though, at the end of stage 2 when they get back. I don't think the rain allows him to get that lap back, so he's going to have to wait there. But other than that, I could be a pretty good finish to that race. I only went in one lineup. It was the $12 single entry. All right, almost got this shared in every single place here. Then I'm going to start getting to some questions. Start sharing the sheet here. Get a few people in, and we will flip things over and have a look at the sheet for this week. Excuse me. I'm also watching hockey, loading goalies right now, too, because we got lock for that coming up here in 52 minutes as well. So keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to flip this over to screen share, and we're going to look at the sheet here for the Blue-Emu Max Pain Relief 500 at Martinsville. So looking at the price in here, it's kind of been this way for a few weeks now. I know we didn't have anything last week, but before that, let's just go over and we'll look at the season data and how things went leading into the break. So we had the Bristol Dirt Race. Joe Dirt got that one. Joey Logano started 10th. He ended up leading 61 laps, winning. Martin Truex was looking good. He was leading 126 laps, finished 19th, unfortunately. Had a not bad week despite that finish by Truex. He was one of my core plays. Atlanta before that. So looking at the winners so far this season, let's go and sort by wins. 7 different winners. We got Logano, Truex, Larson, McDowell, Byron, Blaney, and Christopher Bell in there as well. So we got a bunch of drivers here right below them in Hamlin, Harvick, Keselowski, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, who don't have wins yet. Some big names that don't have wins yet, but are doing pretty good. We'll go and sort by average finish now and have a look at that. as you can see, Denny Hamlin, top fives in 6 of 7 races so far. The only one he didn't, I believe, oh yeah, back at Homestead, he got 11th at Homestead. So 11th is his worst race of the year. He's been extremely consistent despite not getting a win. So I would not be surprised to see him get into victory lane here fairly soon. Joey Logano has been strong. He's got a win last week. That 15th at Atlanta in between, but then at Phoenix he was second as well. And as for the track type history this week on the sheet, we are looking at short flat tracks. So we've got Phoenix, we've got Martinsville, we've got Richmond, and New Hampshire. We've only got one race of New Hampshire in there, going back to the start of the 2020 season. So that's what we're looking at here. So if we go and sort by average finish for that, so we got 3 drivers right now, Keselowski, Elliott, and Martin Truex, who've got multiple wins on the short flat tracks. Joey Logano's been very consistent, 1 win, but top 5s in all 7 races on the short flat tracks. 2.9 average finish over 7 races is incredible. All these guys at the top are quite amazing. The reason I group the short flats together is mostly because of tire wear. I used to look at short tracks, and group your Dover, Martinsville, and Bristol together. I just kind of find that a little bit false and misleading, just because the types of the tracks. So I've split it up over the last 2 years. If you've been with me and looking at the sheets, we've got short flat tracks here. So 1 mile or less that are, I think between all of them are between 12 and 15 degrees of banking. So tire management's a big thing, and braking especially here. So that's why I've grouped this. If you want to break that down in your research, definitely come here. It is also over on the main cheat sheet here. We've got the track history grid, so last 10 races, career track history, short flat, that's here. Same data as we were looking at down here, but you can go a little bit deeper on these tabs down here at the bottom and go race by race, looking at average run, DK, FanDuel points, that sort of thing. Then we've got 2020 and 2021 form, qualifying, and then the model over here to the left. So right now in the model, I haven't added odds yet. I have to see if the formula is right for that, and it is not. So I will get that in there. Let's just do it right now. So we'll throw that in there and that, and we're going to put probably 15% on odds to win, qualifying 20, track history down to 30. We want to get this number down. 15, we'll just go there. So I always want that number at 100, and that's just kind of looking at the rankings of all the data over here, and then it allows you to give you a model to that overall ranking number. I usually make multiple models, a little bit more on track history, maybe a little bit more on form, and just kind of see where drivers fall within multiple models. If you want to make a copy of your own sheet and adjust these models, just go up to File, make a copy, name it whatever you'd like, and then you'll be able to edit it as well as sort rows. So if you wanted to sort by average finish over the last 5 races here, that's the data that you're going to see here at the bottom of the video when I am on the main screen here, what you're going to want to do is just click on, that would be column T, column T, just anywhere down here in the average finish last 5, go up to data, sort A to Z. And as you can see, Brad Keselowski has been extremely good here, top 5s in 5 straight, and 9 of his last 10 races. So just incredible here. Starting 10th this week, so he does give you a little bit of place differential value with that amazing track history. And we see a lot of this track history here, these guys at the top. Generally are your veteran drivers. It is a trickier track. It's something like Darlington where you see a lot of the veteran drivers at the top. Generally, if it's your first couple times here, it's a feeling out process for a track like this. So definitely look at that. Ryan Blaney's been really good here. One of the younger drivers that is up top here, top 5s in 4 straight. Joey Logano. So you're looking at, first of all, I do like those Fords, those Penske Fords. 3 out of 4 of them, 3 out of the top 4 in average finish over the last 5 races here are those Penske Fords. So definitely that is one way I'm going. And then when we start looking at the price in here a little bit, we can get those guys. Like we got Logano, Keselowski, and then where's Blaney here? There's Blaney at 10-1. So they're all they're not top 3 in pricing. I personally like Logano and Blaney. I think you can go with a core of those 2 10K guys. Leaves you a little bit of flexibility where you don't have to go completely stars and scrubs with that build. So I think that definitely is one way that I will be going. Probably like in my 20 max, my strategy is going to be kind of the same as it has been over the last few weeks. I've been making small tweaks. It's been getting better every week, but generally I'm getting a 3-driver core and I'm building 10 lineups around that 3-driver core. So let's just say we go Logano, Blaney. A driver I like down here in this range would be your Almirola and DiBenedetto. They both give you place differential. Here, DiBenedetto's got, after a terrible start here back in the day, going back 10 races where he finished outside of 29th or worse in 6 straight races. Since then, he's got back-to-back top 20s in 2019, and then last year in the 2 races, top 10s in both of those. So seeing him improve over and over, plus giving you place differential, you know, he's got some good odds compared to Almirola. I compare those two in this range. So generally I'm going to, in my core, let's just say it's Logano, even just a 2-driver core, you go Logano and Ryan Blaney. I want 10 lineups with those 2 drivers for sure in there. I'll probably pick one of the Almirola or DiBenedetto and run that 3 times each, or even up to 4 times each out of those 10 lineups. Splitting them, and then probably 1 or 2 lineups with both of them together if those are your core guys. So what I would do first of all is just narrow down your player pools. The first thing I always come and do, I'll go to the top range here, 10K and up, and I want 3 drivers because there are, what do we got here? We got 7 in the top this week. I want 3 as my core. They're going to be in about 40 to 60% of my lineups. And then I want to come down to the next range. That would be like the 8 and 9K range, and probably 2 to 3 in there. 7K range, 2 to 3 in there. And then down here in the, let's say, mid 5K, even 5K and up, guys, because I have gone down here and I have X'd out everyone from James Davidson down, 5K and down on DraftKings and FanDuel. Those drivers aren't in my player pool. That was the first thing I did. And then down here in this range, let's just say 7K and down, probably 3 or 4 drivers that I'll mix in, and there's probably 2 out of those guys that I will have a little bit more exposure than some of these other guys. That is all labeled on the sheet for members, so make sure to go check that out here. And I'm just going to check one thing here. Any questions yet? Not seeing anyone in chat. How is everyone doing? Give me your picks to win. Are you playing FanDuel? Are you playing DraftKings? How are you constructing? One thing I notice here in pricing, if you are playing FanDuel, I'm not as high on Kyle Larson, starting 19th here at Martinsville, but he is a lot cheaper. They obviously are going a little bit more off of track history in terms of their pricing model, because he's only 11K, where he's the second in pricing on DraftKings. He is down quite a bit, probably 7th or 8th here, I believe. 7th in pricing over on FanDuel. So that's nice value over there for a pretty decent driver. He's not that great here, but he's on a hell of a run this year. So I'm taking a top 5, for sure a top 10 out of the cards I think is fine. And so he would be a play more on FanDuel. Sleeper on DK. Like, what do you mean by sleeper? Someone who's going to be low owned, like a pivot. So I kind of see ownership falling. Let's just go to the top. I think you're going to see Logano, because this is, if we go look at, that sends us over to just look at the correlations of the last few races here. I especially want to look at 2020. Laps led 98.8, so 99% of laps led came from the top 10. We had, let's look at it here, 236 from the 8th position, 129 from second. So I added this for last year. We had 5 drivers lead 20 plus, but we had 2 drivers lead 100 plus. So this is a track where I'm looking for 2 drivers to lead 100 plus laps. I think that dominator is going to be huge, especially when you're breaking down this top tier and figuring out your player pool. Because if I think 2 drivers are going to lead 100 plus, and that means there's going to be a couple other drivers that are going to be starting inside the top 10 that are going to be expensive, that are not going to hit value. That's something that we need to look at each and every week. That's where I use the DK fantasy matrix. As you can see here, I've got my projected laps led up. It's not, like I've said in chat, it's not an exact projection of laps led that I think is going to happen exactly in the race, but it's more of a ranking of my dominators, if that makes any sense. So the laps led are always going to add up to however many laps are in the race, but those are kind of the dominators that I'm looking at. So as you can see, Joey Logano is my favorite, starting on the pole. Ryan Blaney starting 4th, and Martin Truex, I think, are my next favorites. Chase Elliott's fairly close to those guys. In the 3rd, 4th spot for Dominator. I think Brad Keselowski's going to lead some laps, and then Denny Hamlin as well. Those are the drivers I see as Dominators. Which ones you kind of, break it down to see. So in terms of low ownership, I think Logano on the pole, Denny Hamlin, his price, Ryan Blaney, I think they're all going to take on some ownership. So if you want to go Kyle Busch, I think is a very cheap, under 10K still, starting 12th. If you think he wins the race, we need about a third place finish if he leads no laps and has no fast laps. Third place finish is going to give him just over 5x. So his upside is kind of limited if he doesn't lead any laps or any fast laps. But if you think he even maybe gets 25 fast laps and 50 laps led, that puts him up at 80 points for the win. 5x is now back at 14th. So we got some big upside there. So that's kind of, again, how I use the matrix and figuring out what a driver's upside is. I don't think he's going to lead 100 laps. I honestly don't think he's going to lead any laps, unless there's too many other drivers that have been much better, not much better equipment, but have been running a lot better to start the year and have actually dominated and led laps. So until I see that from Kyle, Kevin Harvick, those two drivers specifically out there leading laps, I can't look at them as dominators. But if you feel that they can lead laps, Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch are going to be low owned, in my opinion, at 96 and 9,800, because Blaney, Hamlin, Logano, Kozlowski, Elliott, and even Truex, those five guys are for sure going to be five of probably the top seven in terms of ownership here this week. So I think you can pivot to those two in the top tier. And then Liz was asking about Kurt Busch. So that kind of takes me down. I like Kurt Busch and Alex Bowman starting 20th and 21st here. You're looking for about 45 points to hit that 5x from these guys. And so that's about a top 10 out of Bowman and Kurt Busch. If we go look at their track history here, Kurt Busch has been just absolutely consistent. 5th, 9th, 6th, 12th, 6th, 11th. So starting 21st, if we go look at Kurt here, we get a 10th place finish. So that's kind of what we're looking for from a floor. If he goes and gives you, let's just say 20 fast laps, even just 10 and 20, just a little bit here, we've got quite a bit of upside out of him. So I think with these upper guys here, I think what you're going to see for lineup builds is probably from this 10K and up range, you're going to see the chalk lineup being two guys from the top, probably one of Bowman or Kurt Busch, with them standing out a little bit in terms of their track history and their place differential here, 20th and 21st starting positions. And then I think you're going to be seeing people down here in the Bubba, Austin Dillon, Cole Custer, Ryan Newman, down here in this value range, grabbing probably three of them. I'm going to get DK load in here just because I want to throw some drivers in a lineup and just see what it's leaving us for average. Just to give you a little bit better of an idea of where the chalk lineup is going to fall. Again, it's Martinsville, so we're going to see a lot of cautions, going to see some crashes, guys out, so there's definitely going to be some variance here. So pivoting off some of those chalk plays is definitely a good idea. The chalky plays that I like pivoting off of a little bit better, just because of track position is key, is the guys looking at place differential that are going to take ownership, just because their risk of getting into a wreck trying to make their way through the field past some cars that obviously aren't as fast as them, the risk is going to be there to get in accidents and stuff. So that's where I'd probably make my pivots over, say, like a Logano, a Blaney, a Hamlin, who I'm very confident are going to kind of ride in that top five pretty much the whole race, barring something crazy. Having Hamlin and Logano start side by side could lead to a wreck right on lap one. They don't like each other very much. Okay, so I got that up. So if I went with a core of Logano and Blaney, it leaves me 7,300. So then what I would do in my build right away is, like I said, let's just say Kurt Busch is the guy from that range. Just plug him in here. Leaves us 6,700. So coming down and looking at some guys that I do like in this value range, let's talk about them before we talk about constructing the rest of this lineup here. As low as I'm going to go is Corey LaJoie this week at 5,200. Starting 34th. So seeing him start out the top 30 is always someone I'm looking at for a punt place differential, and seeing that he's got 3 straight top 25s here, 2 of them being top 20s at a tough track, I definitely like. So let's just say, go over to the matrix now, and we will look at, we're looking for about 25 points for that 5X here. So that is about a 25th, 26th, or 25th place finish is kind of the floor we're looking at. He's finished 18th here in 2 of his last 3, so that's kind of, let's just say, his upside. That puts him at right around 41, right around 40 points, 40 DK points. If we get that out of a guy at 5K, we're going to be doing really good. Something else that I'm looking at in terms of looking at your value multiplier this week is just simply, as you can see, if Joey Logano gets those 150 laps led, which we've seen if multiple times here. Let's look at the lap leaders and how many they had. Last year, 236, Elliott from the 8th position. We had Martin Truex at 129 in the same race. Truex at 132 in the first race last year. Logano had 234. So 150 is a low projection. We could definitely see a 200 again once guys get out there. But what I'm trying to get at here is if Joey Logano wins the race at this 150, he's going to get 100 plus points. 100 plus points, you're looking in the 9, 10x range. If that happens and you get 2 or 3 guys in your lineup that get you get 2 of the dominators that lead 100 plus laps are giving you 10x return on your DraftKings salary. You can come down here, and when you get these guys like your Corey LaJoyes or Alfredo, I like starting 35th, Ryan Preece, we don't necessarily need that 5x. I think we can get away with 4x because our guys at the top that are going to be dominators are getting 10x are going to make up for that difference that these low guys are going to get. So, for instance, I want to talk about Ryan Newman starting 8th. Seems a little risky for him starting 8th. He does have good track history here. Looks like kind of a lock for a... We'll find him here. There we go. 18th, 12th, 10th, 23rd, 8th. So he's got an average finish of around 14th, 15th. So that puts him, we're looking for about 34 points from him, and that is a 9th place finish. But he's a guy that, you know, just because of his consistency and not crashing here a whole bunch, he usually keeps a pretty clean car, gives you a nice, decent floor. I think we could kind of deal with, say, 28 points, kind of like a 12th, 11th place finish. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it this week from these guys, maybe in the 7K and down range, because they don't necessarily need the 5, 6X to win a GPP whatsoever, especially in cash. If you got 2 or 3 guys hitting, you know, 7 to 10X, that kind of makes up for it. So keep that in mind when you're constructing your lineups this week. Yeah, looking at Bubba, I'm iffy on him. Let's just say starting 25th. He hasn't shown. Let's just look at his season stats here first. 3 top 20s in 7 races. Average finish of 21.7. He has been starting, so that place differential and the fantasy scoring, especially the DK scoring, is obviously down just because of that good starting position that he has had. But a 21.7 average finish, average run rate around 20th, 19.3 here. And then we go look at his track history. He does have some upside, 11th and 13th, but again, it comes down to the matrix. We're looking for about 35 points for just under 5x, and that puts him kind of in that 17th, 18th range. And, you know, the percentage of time that he's going to get inside that 17th and 18th for me isn't enough for me. I'm going to be going with guys, you know, I'm going to be paying 500 more for DeBenedetto, and 700 more for Almirola, a lot more than Wallace. Wallace is probably going to be a little bit lower on, maybe not. People do look at that place differential quite a bit, but the math just isn't there for me for him to really hit that upside. Now that we're getting above that 7K range, I really do want that 5X from guys that are above the 7K range on DraftKings, and I just see that more from guys just spending a little bit more and getting up to Almirola, DeBenedetto, even Christopher Bell here. He's in a better car, better equipment, not that much more money. He's been better. I don't want to say better here, but he does give you that same place differential upside. He's a better odds to win the race. He's already won a race this year, showing a lot more speed. So there's a lot of different ways I'm going other than Bubba myself. Okay, so moving on, a couple other, Chris Buescher is one. Someone actually asked me in RotoPros chat. I'm just going to jump over there for a second and answer that question. Oh, sorry, it was in my Patreon chat. Nate asked, which combo do I like better for GPP, DeBenedetto and Buescher, Kurt Busch and Preece, or Bowman and Alfredo? Honestly, I like the DeBenedetto Buescher. It gives you that place differential. I think we can see like 10th to 15th out of DeBenedetto here. And then we come down to Busch. I'm not a fan of his starting position at 15th, but at 6,400, we're looking for about 30 points out of him. And that takes us to about a 14th. We need about a top 15 out of him, and I think he's kind of got 10th to 12th upside. So I do like that for GPP. Alfredo's more of just a punt that we're looking for, 4x out of it. We could get 20 points out of him. I think that would be okay if you hit the right guys at the top. And I will have probably in my 20 lineups, 2 or 3 with Alfredo in it, somewhere in that range. We're looking for about a 27th to 30th place finish minimum from him. I think we could see up to a 25th, so I don't think that's too bad. Right around 5x out of Alfredo, I think is fine. I like LaJoie a little bit better, but I think Alfredo is fine there as well. Ryan Preece, he mentioned there, I don't mind it at all. Starting 17th, there's a lot more that he needs to go right for him. For him to hit value. He has finished top 20 in 3 of his last 4 here. So seeing that he's been very good, not very good, but very good for his price, very good for the equipment that he's in here at Martinsville, makes me like him a little bit too. Let's go break it down here. We're looking at about 28 points. So we're looking for about a 16th to 18th place finish for him. So kind of where he starts. If he finishes where he starts, I think that's fine. Anywhere inside the top 20, I don't think he kills your lineups if you choose the right dominators at the top. Myself, the lineup construction that I'm really looking at this week, and I'm actually going to go throw back to that lineup construction now that we've talked about some value guys. I started with Logano and Blaney. I threw in Kurt Busch from that mid range here, 8,900, and then what I'm going to do is go find 2 guys that I like down below. So I talked about LaJoie, so I'm going to throw him in there at his price of 5,200. That gives us an average of 7,500. So with those 4 core right there, you can now go. Cole Custer is one of my favorite value plays at 7K. We need about a 17th place finish just to hit 5x, and I think he's got. In the equipment that he's in the 41 car, I think he's kind of, 12th is probably a good upside for him. If all things go right, I think he could probably touch top 10 and surprise with a top 10 this week, which is really good upside. So his chance of hitting his 6-7x upside, I think, is greater than all these other guys down here. Newman feels maybe a little bit safer just because of his consistency here at this track, but I love Custer's upside, so I'm going to throw him in that lineup. Pretty much giving you a lineup here that you can play with. Then you can go and you can get Almirola or DeBenedetto. So just building a core with Logano and Blaney and then whatever one of those other drivers. So I picked Kurt Busch. So Logano, Blaney, Kurt Busch. That would probably be out of my first 10 lineups. That's probably going to be about 4 of them. And then I'll take Kurt Busch out and I will add in, let's just say DeBenedetto, and I'll build 4 more. So there's 8 of those 10 lineups, and then the other 2, I'll just kind of make them a little bit different and diversify a little bit. Going with my value plays, especially no one over 20 to 30%. I don't want one value driver who obviously they're a value driver for a reason. They have a lot more variance in their results. So I don't want a whole bunch of exposure. I don't want them ruining a whole bunch of lineups should something go wrong, which does happen more often than the top teams, something going wrong. Unless you're Kyle Busch, of course. Nothing seems to be going right for him. But moving on, I'm not angry at all. Custer or Dillon in the 7K range. Custer for me. I will have 0 Austin Dillon starting 18th. That's 8 points right there in terms of place differential for them. And looking at their results here, Austin Dillon's had some good results. Like he was on a good run of top 20s about 4 or 5 years ago here, a couple top 5s, 13th and 17th as well. But since he's finished outside the top 20 in 5 of his last 6 and no top 10s at 11th place is his best finish. So I just feel a little bit more confident with the place differential, getting those 8 extra place differential points out of Custer. Although Dillon's odds are a little bit better to win, I just feel Custer's just a bit better in terms of a fantasy play this week. A little bit more safety for sure. If you feel Austin can get a top 10, let's go look at what that's going to look like. A 10th place finish for him with no laps led and no fast laps is 42 points. So not bad, but just still not enough. I don't see him as the same kind of upside as Custer. So it's Custer for me. Long answer, but definitely Custer in that range for me. So I got a pretty tight core this week, so my 20 max is going to not be very diverse, which can really suck. So if you're looking for a little bit diversify, if you're not looking to be that risky, because one or two drivers could really ruin me, especially Logano or Blaney could definitely ruin my day. It's at least going to ruin 50% of my lineups. But I find that if my core guys, my 3 or 4 guys that I'm going to be, in that 40 to 60% range on, if they finish, all of them top 5, 2 of them become dominators, my chances of taking down a GPP are going to be a lot greater. So it only takes, one really good week to make up for 4 or 5 mediocre / bad weeks with that less diverse kind of strategy. So that's the way I look at it for sure. Can't find how to build your team. You go to DraftKings or FanDuel, and then just pick a contest that you want to go in to where you want to build your team. You must be on the sportsbook side of things for winners and stuff. I'm going to talk about a few winners here in a bit, but this show is mainly geared towards the DFS side of things on DraftKings and FanDuel. So definitely go to that side, the fantasy side, and find your contests there. Like there's some good ones. The one I go in every week is the 20 max $4. It is called the Chrome Horn. 20K to first. It's decent payouts. Not as loaded as like the Millie Maker. Second's 10K, third is 5K, fourth is 3K, fifth is 2K. So you can max that sucker out for $80. So I go $80 every week on that one. I've been kind of breaking even, or maybe like losing 40 or gain 40. I haven't had any big wins yet, but my construction and my player pool construction and how I'm building my lineups is getting better every week. And what I like to see when I build my lineups, if you're looking at your app and you can see all the little circles, if you're looking at your contest, if you're multi-entering, I like to see all my circles. And Kenny is amazing at this over at Roto Pros. He gets his cores very, very tight like that, so that when you look at all your little circles on your contests as you're tracking things during the race or during the golf event or whatever sport you're playing, want them all together. If you're very non-diverse in your lineup construction in your 20 max, you're going to see all those circles very close together as the event goes on, versus if you're not diverse, if you have, say, 10 of your 20 lineups are one full core and 10 of your other 10 lineups in that 20 max are a completely different core, you're going to probably see 2 groups of circles when you're looking at it. The chances are they're not going to be in the same spot because they're 2 different cores. But that's all depends on your level of risk and how you like to build. But I know for me, my process has been getting better each and every week. It just comes down to when I have these rules set for when I start building, like let's say 2 guys in the 10K and up range. I want 2 value guys in the 7K and down range. And then I want 1 or 2 guys in that medium range, depending on which value guys you go with in the bottom and which guys you pay up for at the top. How determines how many in that mid range that you can use. So, but I always start with 2 drivers, like I said, Logano and Blaney being my favorite this week. I see them both kind of, having a good chance at getting to be the top 2 dominators, which would give them kind of in that 7 to 10x return. I like building off them in 10 of my lineups. I'm probably going to have more exposure than that, but I'd probably go after those 10 lineups where I have them together. I'll probably have them separate in probably 2 more lineups each, so that they're right around that 60% exposure is the way I'm looking at it. And when I have those rules set, I can get through hand building 20 lineups fairly easily, because I'm just pretty much copying. I'll build that first lineup and I'm just importing it, erasing 4 drivers and building, saving, loading that same core, 4 different drivers. And then I have on the other screen, which I have multiple screens up, but you don't need multiple screens. I've got it set up so that I can see the exposures while I'm building. So if you download and you're working on your computer, go download the Roto Grinders. They have an app, and it shows you your exposures in your lineup when you're doing your lineup construction. It really helps narrow things down, helps you build. Yeah, so if you guys got any more questions about drivers or anything, I'm going to bring up my betting site here. I use CoolBet up here in Canada, and I'm going to look at a couple bets to win. And again, we've got no practice. I really missed practice from Bristol 2 weeks ago. We don't have any of that data, so I definitely do like looking at some drivers. Not the favorites, going down a little bit, just because it is going to be a little bit more diverse in the winners. We've already seen 7 different winners to start the year. Let's go picks to win, Blue-Emu Max Pain Relief. So Truex is the favorite on this site, plus 450. Kozlowski plus 500. Elliott plus 550. Blaney at plus 600. I like Blaney plus 600. And Logano plus 650. Those are my 2 core guys in DFS, so seeing them as the 4th and 5th in odds to win, I definitely like. I will have a bet on them, probably $5 or $10 on both of them. So what I generally do is try and narrow it down to 3 drivers. And as long as you're not betting, all the top favorites, as long as you hit one of those drivers to win, you're going to have profit. So if I go $10, that's a $60 return, $65 return. And then let's say a longer shot, I do like Alex Bowman. So $10 on him obviously would be 200 return there. So no matter what, as long as one driver wins, you're going to be in for $30. You're going to at least double your money. If Logano wins, a little more than double. Or sorry, if Blaney wins, a little more than double if Logano wins, and you're going to have a pretty darn good return if Alex Bowman wins. If you only like to go 2, you can definitely go that route as well. It just gives you a little more profit should one of your drivers win, but obviously one less driver, so your odds go down. It's just really how much you're betting and how you like to go about it. Some people just like to pick one. If I was just picking one today, I definitely like Joey Logano to win here. Blaney would be number 2 for me in my model. Chase Elliott as well. He's plus 550. So all these guys kind of grouped in this plus 500 to plus 1,000 range, I think are a pretty good, decent value. And then I do like Alex Bowman. If we look at, we haven't talked about him for DFS. I'll slide over here and look at that. I like the price at 9,200, starting 20th. He's right there with Kurt Busch. So I'm probably going to split Bowman and Kurt Busch in my DFS builds, probably about 40 to 50% exposure to both of them. They're going to be heavy in my Logano Blaney builds, as well as my second core in my second half of the 10 max without Logano and Blaney in there as well. So the rankings are also up in the sheet. You can come over here for members. You're going to see this week I got 17 drivers that are going to be in my player pool, and it's ranked based on my exposure, my own personal exposure, as well as the overall rankings, which I talked about are just the model. The model just kind of sends me in the direction of, okay, now I need to go research these guys a little bit more, and then I narrow it down and post my top drivers in the rankings. So make sure to go check that out. And then I post my 2 and 3 driver cores as well for FanDuel and DraftKings in chat. I'm going to slide over and look at prize picks. Posted some for the Xfinity race. That's going to be a sweat. I ended up going with Harrison Burton, Allmendinger, Blah, and Brandon Jones. So Burton and Jones are looking good right now, and it was a 3-pick flex. Unfortunately, that tied up what I had left on here, so I'll probably have to deposit some more for that, for this race. But going and looking at Cup race, couple that stand out. I usually like to go down to the bottom and see what we get for value. Like we're getting Almirola at 25.5, which gives him, we're looking at a top 15 finish if you're rostering Almirola on prize picks and going with the over today. He's got 15th or better in 4 of his last 6 and crashes in those other 2, so that's not a bad one. Ryan Newman, same thing at 25.5, looking for a top 15 from him. I actually like that one a little bit more. Kurt Busch at 29, that gives him, we are looking for 12th place is a break even, 11th or better is a win on the over for him at that 29 number. DeBetadetto at 27 is nice. That means a 14th or better for DeBetadetto. He's got top 10s in 2 straight, so that's a nice one in there. Usually what I'll try and do is mix one of these lower guys with the top guy. I talked about Joey Logano, so he's 33.5. That's probably going to be my favorite play. That puts him, we need a 7th place or better out of him. And then Ryan Blaney at 33. We can break even at an 8th place with him, but 7th or better as well. So I definitely like those 2. Probably in if you're just going like a 2-pick power play, which is 3 extra money if that goes right. I like the Logano and Blaney. Probably like adding in a Ryan Newman here for a 3-play flex. And if you want to go 4, and add another one in there. Alex Bowman at 30.5. That's a top 10 finish we need out of him. I like that there as well. So those are my top 4 Prize Picks plays as well. All right, going to look at a couple more questions here. Yeah, what you want to look for in terms of app, I'm assuming you're looking on your phone. I'm just going to bring it up on my phone here. It's just the DraftKings Fantasy app. You don't want the sports betting app. You want the DraftKings Fantasy app, and you should be able to find that there. You like Belmore? Bowman hasn't done much. Hasn't done much here, or hasn't done much like for the season. Well, I'm just going to look at both because Bowman's had back-to-back. He's 6th place here at both races last year. I do like that. Byron is a sleeper play. That's one guy I haven't talked about. He got in an accident here in the second race in the playoffs, but top 10s before that, and a 2nd place on the second race in 2019 as well. That was the last race going into the playoffs at Phoenix, or into the final at Phoenix as well. So I definitely like that call there. Starting 3rd, he's going to need to lead laps. So it's definitely viable. I think he's probably going to be one of the lowest owned guys, say from him or even the 8K and up. What do we got? 14 drivers there. I bet you he is probably 12th to 14th in ownership out of those top 14 drivers. So I think that's a great pivot. Just know that when you're doing that, that you do need the dominator points from him starting 3rd, and you need a top 3 finish because at 8,700, we need just less than 45 points from him. Let's go. I'm just looking at the matrix here. I'll slide back over to the matrix here, looking at Byron starting 3rd. If he was just to finish 3rd with no laps led, no dominator points whatsoever, he is going to fall short of 5x. You're looking at 5x at a 2nd and just barely over at 1st. So he's going to be super low on, but just keep in mind that we need him to lead laps. Let's just go, if he's going to lead laps, let's just give him. Yeah, so he gets 71, almost 71 points with 50 laps led. He's starting to get there for value now, so I definitely like that. And we don't need a whole lot of laps led for him to get there. So definitely GPP play. Definitely should be low owned. So yeah, I like that call. I think that's a good call, JP. Oh, I'm just looking at your trend here, just reading it. So JP writes, if the trend continues, Ryan Blaney or Austin Dillon were in the booth last night, and every driver the last 3 races that have been in the booth at an Xfinity race have won the race. Oh, wow. I really like that. I was watching that. I don't like it for Dillon. I'm not really high on him still. That doesn't really sway me. More of a GPP pivot off of, say, like Custer. If you think Bubba gets some ownership there, starting 25th, Almirola 31st to Benedetto, they're going to take some ownership right in the middle. Tyler Reddick makes a good GPP pivot, I think. He's probably got 10th upside, so it kind of gets you close to there. If he leads some laps, gets some fast laps, I think he can get there as well, provided some of these other guys, give you less than 5x. But Austin Dillon starting 18th is down a little bit, but that really feels good as Blaine. I don't know if anyone was watching after the rain got called last night. It sure sounded like Blaney wanted to get the hell out of there. Didn't really want to wait around for the race. Adam Alexander was like, are you going to leave us? And he was like, well, I kind of got some dinner plans. It was quite funny. But any more questions here? I'm going to get going in about 5 minutes and start building my 20 max. We are... Oh, I haven't checked the weather here again to see if Bob has any updates posted, but at 70 to 90% chance of rain last time I checked was not looking good. He does have a tweet here I'm going to post in the chat. I don't know if it pops up where you can see it, but if you click on that, it'll take you to Twitter. Bob Pockers, if you don't follow him on Twitter and you're playing DFS NASCAR, I would definitely get in there. He has a lot of... Oh, Suarez wasn't ejected. His crew chief was ejected. Okay, I'm just kind of going through some of this. Okay. Going through his Twitter here right now is what I'm doing. Just trying to find some inspection stuff to see if anyone's going to the rear. Tyler Reddick is going to the rear, so he's going to be a fade for me starting 13th. I'm glad we were just talking about him. the plug to the fuel pump wasn't connected. So yeah, on the pace laps to start the race, he will be going to the rear, so keep that in mind. That makes him a full fade for me. That's going to definitely add more ownership to Bell, Almirola, De Benedetto, Bubba, Custer, even Ryan Newman. So keep that in mind. What else do we got going here? Suarez to the rear, Davidson to the rear, Haley to the rear, and LaJoy to the rear. I think that maybe take a little bit of ownership off LaJoy. It doesn't bother me as much. There's only 37 drivers in this race, so he's really only going back 3 spots. So actually, Davidson's behind him, so he's actually going back 2 spots. So I'm not concerned there at all with LaJoy. That is a non-factor. I hope people see that and maybe fade him, maybe 1% less ownership on him. He is my favorite punt play. So keep that in mind. Green flag scheduled at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's raining and air Titans are on the track. So if the Titans are on the track, it can't be raining too hard. So that's good. See what builds in the cell behind. Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at the radar right now. It's a lot of green and yellow, everyone. Not too positive that we're going to see racing tonight, actually. But I'm definitely be doing my lineups. I'm not sure if they don't call it before lock. I'm not sure that DraftKings will push it back. I'm not sure how that'll go if they'll open more contests if they end up pushing it to tomorrow or not. But I'm going to be doing, I've got my 20 max locked into that $4 chrome horn. I'm going to be going and starting to build these here shortly. I'm going to post my cores in chat tonight within 20 to 30 minutes after this as well. Chase that Elliott. Yep, that's my kid said that on the way by. That's her pick to win, and he's one of my core plays as well. I've got him as my 4th dominator, 4th favorite dominator, but I could totally see him getting up there and leading a bunch of laps as well. Whoever you think, I would just narrow those guys down and try and get 2 dominators that you think have the best chance at leading 100 plus laps, and just kind of go from there as your core, and then just kind of figure out maybe your top 5 dominators and make sure you're getting exposure to those guys. Because if you think a driver's starting top 10 and he's not going to get dominator points, chances are he's not going to hit the value that you're going to need to cash. So that's a big thing. I'm going to mention it every single week. Sound like a broken record, but it's just the way I build and just the way I look at lineup construction. Is you really need those points. Like when Harvick and Kyle Busch were the most expensive drivers, I think 3 weeks running, one of them was the most expensive driver. Neither of them having good starts to the season, looking like dominators. They needed a lot to go right for them when there was other drivers that were $1,000, $2,000 cheaper that give you more dominator upside, that give you more place differential upside. It just doesn't make sense to use those guys that add a ton of risk for no reason. So that's the way I look at it. If you want to learn a little bit more about my 20 max builds, I'm going to be doing a kind of like a strategy video on that here coming up once I tweak things a little bit more and have a strategy that I'm following along with every single week, keeping it the same. And it's going to change each and every week, but I'm just meaning like the core of how I'm choosing the drivers, getting that to carry over. So I'm going to do that. But if you want to learn a little bit more now, definitely hit me up in the Roto Pros DFSR chat or over on my Patreon Slack chat as well. We went over top picks. We went over prize picks. We went over bets to win the race. Answered some questions here. If anyone's got nothing else, I'm going to take off here and we're going to start building some lineups. Thanks for watching the live show. Next week, we are back on Sunday. So stay tuned for that. The live show, I'm hoping it will be about 10:30 to 11 a.m. Eastern is kind of the target start time. I will keep going forward. Saturday night races, it will be about the same as this, about 2 hours before the race, just simply because I want to see all that inspection, because it's, it changes the way our lineup builds. Like I was considering Tyler Reddick. He's going to the rear now. That just adds way too much risk for him to even get back to 13th. We need a top 15 finish out of him, which he's never had here at Martinsville, and now he's starting from the rear, but his fantasy place differential is still 13th, so that just makes him an auto fade. So that's kind of why these race day shows are going to be a little bit closer to lock, just to get all the information in there. It's really important, guys. Thanks for watching. Let's go get some green screens. Good luck this week.